Hello and welcome to another episode of the Captain's Table Podcast. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the Astropub, your space bar at the end of the universe. You sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. Today, I'm joined by two veteran now, we've been on a couple episodes before, two members. And we're going to be talking about Tier 0 and just in general, in the future of item recovery. For those of you who don't know, this is a thing that CIG recently announced they were going to be adding to 4.1. And it's in 4.1, which you can try right now, which is in PTU, open PTU for everybody as of this week. So you can go check it out if you need to. All right, with that, let's move on to introductions. I'll start with you. Dar, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
My name is Teresa. Most people just call me Dar. And I am really more of a player with a lot of thoughts about the game. I hang out on KG's stream. I come on here. I say what I think. And, if you want to hear what I think, I'm often on KG's stream, not every night, but, a few times a week, usually, at the very least. So, yeah, that's me.
Awesome. And then we've got, speaking of KG, the real KG. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? And where can they find you?
I'm KG. I stream Star Citizen full time. We play like 6 hours a night.
Oof.
You can find me at twitchtv.com/TheRealKG. Yeah, I'm just constantly playing the game and testing it every day. So if you guys enjoy watching that, or the game playing me, you can watch that as well. But yeah, just somebody that plays the game constantly and tests it. So.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about Tier 0 and the Tier 1 and Tier 2 implementation. I'm pulling up what specifically was said by CIG about it. And I'm going to read through what directly was said, so we are all on the same page, so everyone who's watching this also kind of generally knows what is going on with what we're talking about, so they're not too confused as to what's going on. So Tier 0 implementation is set as with the initial rollout of item recovery, you will respawn with the exact gear you had equipped at the time of death. Emphasis on the term equipped. This is different than what you may have had in your inventory. This includes equipped weapons, armor, magazines, med pens, ensuring your core loadout is retained. However, items stored in your inventory, such as your backpack or other containers, will remain on your corpse, making them available for looting or retrieval. While equipped items will also remain on your corpse, too, they will not be interactable, preventing them from duplication while still preserving the visual state of your character at the time of death. This approach helps mitigate item duplication issues with the initial implementation while laying the groundwork for future expansions of the system in T1 and T2. So, looking ahead for T1 and T2. Tier 1 loadout and ship Tier 1 is loadout and ship registration. You'll have a personal loadout. Players can register their equipment items and be reclaimed for a fee at a specific kiosks or freight elevators. Ships and interiors, along with their loadouts, decorations, and locker containers, can also be registered. They can be reclaimed at the state that they were previously registered at ASOP terminals for a price. Looting and bricked items. Once an item is looted, it remains unusable until the original owner reclaims it, or marks it as stolen. At that point, a deadband switch is activated, meaning it will cease to function after a period of time. While a looted and or stolen quote-unquote bricked item is no longer usable, you can still sell them for credits. Pledge items are auto-registered and you will never lose the registration status. They will always be claimed back, even if they were not manually registered. With T1, you will no longer respawn with your preserved gear already equipped. You will need to visit a location, such as your freight elevator, to reclaim your registered items. We're developing a quality of life feature to allow you to re-equip your previous full loadout with one auto-equip button at this location. Additionally, with the implementation of T1, our current plan is to remove the ability to quote-unquote backspace out of dangerous scenarios as a way to retaining gear. And then T2 is called the Restoring Bricked Items and Crafting Integration. And T2 will introduce the ability to restore previously bricked items for a price. Looting and bricked items. Once an item is looted, you will be able to have the option to sell it, dismantle it for crafting materials, or restore it, with the potential cost of crafting materials and credits to make it your own. The system creates a viable path for piracy, allowing you to reclaim another player's belongings if you take the necessary steps to legitimize ownership. If an item had a cosmetic applied, restoring it will remove the cosmetic in the process. So, that is tier 0 through 2.2. 4.1 is introducing tier 0. So, I'm going to start with you, KG, since you're the last person to introduce yourself. And I know you have the most fervent opinion on this. What is your general opinion on tier 0? We'll go into more details here in a moment, but what's your general opinion on tier 0?
Bring it back to the drawing board.
All right.
Honestly, I think if they're going to have a tier 0, it just shouldn't go live at all. And that should be continued testing on like a preview channel. But the ability to not being able to loot somebody that you killed, like say in a DZ or a CZ or any kind of PvP situation, or even maybe going to a bunker like as a naked and finding like a dead player and you can't loot any of his gear and use any of it, it's just, it doesn't make sense to me. It makes zero sense to me.
Okay, we'll go into we'll go into the details here in a moment. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was also gonna say just like the fact that you respawn with equipped like consumable items, as in like magazines and med pins, I think shouldn't be a thing as well. Like the only thing you should be able to respawn with would be pledge items, and that's it.
Okay.
Nothing that you buy in game.
Darissa, your thoughts on this just over in general?
Yeah, I mean, I broadly I agree with KG. I think it's a like poorly thought out, almost knee-jerk reaction to people complaining about their losing their hanger gear, and I think it's going to have pretty far-reaching consequences on the game as a whole and the way we've been playing it for the last like 4-ish years since 3.15.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would be much happier with the game if they didn't implement tier 0 at all. I have some problems with tier 1 and 2, but less so. But I think tier 0 is a clear step back for the game. It's a change of direction, and it feels poorly thought out and ill-considered to do it as quickly as they're doing it.
Okay. I am of the middle opinion, generally speaking, because I see what this is CIG trying to figure out a way to make the system this is CIG's attempt to not what is it called? Bespoke? Yeah, to make a bespoke system specifically for subscriber gear or for purchased gear. They're trying to tie in a bunch of different things that people have desired. Like one of the things that I've heard people a ton talk about is the ability to buy back armor after you've lost it, so that they can, have a one quick equip. So like they have a thing, so they don't have to like travel across the universe to get the armor that they want to wear. They can just like insure it or have some way of just repurchasing it even for the full price, so they can just move on. So sort of a quality of life feature. People have talked about the idea of insuring their equipment or other things like that. So I think this is CIG's attempt to try to combine all those ideas together, rather than making a bespoke system for one and then a bespoke system for another. They're just like, oh, let's make it simpler on ourselves to do this. I also 100% see this as a detriment to combat players, because it's also going to encourage the shittiest of shitty behavior from players, because now you can just at a combat or at a contested zone, a CZ, you can just spawn, run down, shoot people, like be completely bad at the game, but like have a grenade launcher or some other area of effect weapon that you can just spam to screw people over, then die, and then respawn and continue to do that over and over again because you're not losing anything. You're just going to run in there just to fuck with people. And that completely breaks the whole point of CZs. Like, there's supposed to be some consequences. It removes a lot of the consequence from the game. So I'm in the middle because I see this as CIG is effectively throwing people a bone who have been asking for these features for a long time. But at the same time, they're also doing so almost knowingly doing so because they know that people are going to be mad at this. So it's more just like bleh, like yeah, here you go. We know this is not a perfect solution, but it's a solution. Here you go. Okay, I'll turn myself down a little bit. There we go. That's hopefully a little bit better. All right, so let's go into the specific positives and negatives when it comes to tier 0 specifically, if there is any. So let's look at the positives. I'll start with you, Dar, on this one. What are some of the positives of this system?
I mean, so I've been a sub for like 4 years now. I was looking the other night. I have like 34 pages in my hangar,
Whew.
and not all of them are ships. And I have a bunch of bullshit that I never take out, and a whole lot of gear and guns and everything. And I rarely use it. I'll use it, like I wear my gold armor during events, and there's some few weapons I'll use, and I love the Academy MPU V1C backpack from IAE a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll take that out sometimes when I'm being safe. But, the upside of like, okay, I can take all the random cool stuff out of my hangar and wear it and not worry about losing it. Like, I understand that. I just think that's, it doesn't offset the negatives, but as far as positives, that's obvious. And then, the other one is that when you do die and respawn, it's much faster to get going again because all you have to do is fill up your backpack with cruise and, whatever extra ammo, and you're good to go instead of having to re-equip a whole armor set. Those are the obvious benefits.
KG, is there any benefits, any positives? Because I know you really hate this system. So,
I mean, I don't hate the system. Like, I understand why they want to do it, but I think the one good thing out of it is the fact that you get your pledge gear back. Like, that's cool. Your pledged items that's awesome. I like that, but I just think the way that they're doing it, that the way that they're implementing is just kind of weird.
So
it feels off.
The intent isn't bad. It's the execution which is bad, in your opinion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I could also argue that maybe the intent is bad, but I can see from my own selfish player perspective the benefit of it. It's just a question of like, do I think that's good for the game as a whole? And not really, no. But like, playing the game, like, sure, yeah. That particularly that Academy MPU V1C backpack, it's the coolest backpack in the game. I love it. I've never looted one. I have one of them in my hangar. So, I get that. It's cool. I don't think it'll be good for the game.
Yeah. I think the positives is mostly just, this is going to sound awful, and I don't mean it to sound awful, but I gotta stay engaging, and I want to make sure that people are commenting. So please comment down below if I'm on the video if I personally insulted you with this. But I think a lot of people, as you said, it's junk. The stuff we get from subscriber gear is junk. It is not necessarily good. It's not and it's like all of the free stuff we get from like Luminalia, it's just like, oh great, another gun. Like another gun that I don't use or have any desire to use. There are some cool things like my Invictus flight jacket. Fucking love that thing. I love that like the like kind of leather jacket. But most of it, I'd say like 99% of the stuff we get from subscriber gear to the flare, it's just garbage. It's just sort of fill-in garbage that if I could get rid of, I would get rid of, rather than deal with it. And so, but I do know that people are really interested in that stuff and they want to be able to use it. So I think one of the positives is it reduces gear fear, which should mean we should have more people parading around in more unique outfits instead of the most meta outfit or whatever outfit is available. And that's one of the few things that I would say kind of sucks is when you walk around and all you see is like Xenothreat armor or Frontier Fighters armor, because that's what people killed and they just took it and they're just like, this is my armor now, instead of like an armor that is an expression of themselves, because if they wear the cool stuff that they have that makes them look unique, they'll die and lose it. So like, why do I even bother?
Back in the day when the Ninetales were wearing like teal with the red undersuit, they didn't have their own unique armor, and everyone just wore that. Yeah, everyone,
because you just killed them and took it.
Red.
Yeah. It's like, well, if I lost it, I lost it. Whatever, you know. KG, negatives. Let's go over the negatives in detail. What are the negatives? How does this impact the game? Because I think you both have kind of talked about like that this hurts the gameplay of Star Citizen. How does this hurt the gameplay of Star Citizen?
I think it just mainly hurts the PvP gameplay,
Okay.
especially with CZs or just like kind of any kind of PvP situation. Because like you could kill somebody and then run out of ammo, say in your gun, and you go up to loot that other player, and you're unable to pull a weapon from them to use because it's locked to that person. Like it just ruins the feel of being able to move around and loot and do what you need to do to like keep yourself alive in a PvP situation, more or less in my eyes.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
All I was going to say is I while you were talking about that, I remember that there's been plenty of times in PvP and PvE situations where I ran out of ammo. And so I killed somebody, grabbed their gun, picked it up and started using it, ran out of ammo, dumped the gun, picked up somebody else's gun, kept using it. And it's that sort of almost cinematic experience of being like, like I'm completely outnumbered, and I have no resources. I am throwing everything at the wall. I'm just going to pick everything up, and just move with it. And it feels good. It feels good when you're able to do that and move on with it. So,
it could also even hurt like the people that want to do like some sort of events, where they have like orgs wanting to do large like org on org events.
Yeah,
and the ability to loot each other's gear is impossible now. So like, what's the point? It kind of defeats the purpose of any kind of PvP.
Dar. Dar. How about you? What are some of the negatives behind it?
I mean, I agree with KG, but I think as well, it eliminating gear fear is a double-edged sword. The gear fear and the kind of Tarkov light, very, very light that we've had with gear over the last 4 years is it makes you consider what you're wearing, consider what you're doing. If you're wearing gear that you like, you're going to be more careful. You change gear a lot. Sometimes you just wear an undersuit if you know you're going to die, and sometimes you wear heavy combat gear if you're going to be in that situation. And sometimes you just bring a tractor beam and a backpack, but it's going to greatly change the dynamic of the game and how people play. People are not going to call med beacons. People are going to backspace at the most minor inconvenience to them. It's just going to make the game easier and not as interesting, and not as you're not making a commitment when you undock to try to get back, and that's discounting the fact that you can always go to menus. I don't know how people die falling through planets, because you can go to menus, you don't die, you just fall through the planet and go to menus, and then you're back where you last called. But I honestly, I hear people talk about, oh, I die to bugs all the time. I genuinely cannot remember the last time I died to a bug in Star Citizen. And maybe that's a unique experience for me, but I really don't die that often. But that's because I'm careful not to. I don't like to die.
Yeah.
And I know for me personally, Tier 0 is going to make me much more likely to die. And it's going to lead to me doing dumb shit that I otherwise wouldn't all the time, which is maybe fun, but I don't think that's the direction we want the game going. It feels like one of those steps that if you look at the path, I'm going to reference WoW, from vanilla WoW to modern retail WoW. It's one of those steps that Blizzard took a lot of, that makes the game easier and more casual. And in years, people will look back on it and be like, why did they ever do that? The game was so much more fun and so much more social and so much better in vanilla. And it's a similar situation with Star Citizen. I think it's going to be like, I don't think people understand how huge of a change this is to the game.
I will take the lighter negative term, because like I've said, I'm in between with this, because I also, like you mentioned med beacons. No one uses med beacons that I know of at all right now. But that's also maybe a bad thing, because introducing something that also still doesn't incentivize med beacons means that there's an entire gameplay loop that's now becoming even less valuable to the gameplay because people just don't care.
Yeah, I mean, being a medic is supposed to be an entire game loop, and I mean, it's like, if I get a tier 3 arm injury, I'm just gonna backspace.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna bring a nurse along a lot more, or fly players, or
if there's no, that's a good point. If there's no consequences to backspacing out of a situation where you're like, say you finished a mission and you're done, and you don't have a NERSA, you have to go back to your ship. You have to get in your ship. You have to fly back to a location. You have to get to a health center. You have to get into the health center, check in. You have to go. Instead, you can just backspace, and then you're suddenly back to the med center, and you're back there. It's going to encourage people more to minor inconvenience, just backspace their way back, because there's no consequences to it. I think that it's definitely sending the wrong message. The big thing the biggest problem I have with it is that it's tier 0. And this is CIG. So they said, 2 years ago, we're not doing any more tier 0s.
Yeah, and then they come out with
this as a tier 0.
Yeah.
And the problem is whenever CIG implements a tier 0, it becomes what's the software term? A temporary fix is just a permanent fix that you don't want to call the permanent fix.
Right?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as temporary fixes in software development. So like tier 0, this is a temporary thing. No, it's not. Everyone knows this is going to be what we're going to deal with for the next 6, 9, 10, 12 months. And I think, go ahead.
I can definitely say that if they had put a timeline on tier 1 and tier 2, I'd probably be a lot more gracious towards CIG about this, but they very obviously didn't put a time on tier 1 and tier 2. So, I mean, you remember the temporary weapon rebalance in 3.14 that lasted for like 4 years, 3 or 4 years. So, is this the next 3 or 4 years of the game? We don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the one of the major negatives, is that we don't have any idea. I do think, I will say, overall, and I'll let you'll we've kind of already talked about this, so it's more this. I'll finish this up and we'll go into tier 1 and tier 2 by saying I think overall this will please more people than it will make mad, because the reality is right now PvP is a fraction of the community. We're talking combat players who are a smaller sect of the community than other players, and then on top of that, PvP players are something like 4% of the community. 4% of all players actually participate in PvP. So we're a very small community for those of us who do PvP. I don't actively seek it out, but I don't steer away from it, sort of thing. I think that's probably the majority of players. So I think the majority of players see this as more, I'm getting my gear back because I died to a bug, or because I can finally pull out that cool armor piece that I got 3 years ago that I wasn't going to use because I knew the second I used it, I was going to lose it for whatever reason.
I would I would love to know what bugs people are dying to so regularly. Honestly,
Seriously.
the biggest bugs that I've seen for death, and I think recently it's become easier. It's become less of a this bug, I have to, I died to this bug, and more of a, I need to log out and log back in, or, log back to menu. But one of the bugs that can easily happen is things like your ship's randomly exploding. The ships will just explode for no reason. And it's,
I mean, I don't doubt that happens, but I mean, I've probably played, I don't know, 200 hours ish, 100 to 200 hours of 4.0 to now. And I mean, my ship's never randomly exploded. So, I don't know how common it is. KG, you've played a hell of a lot more than that. I don't know if you've experienced that at all.
I mean, I've had it happen, but it was mainly like a desync between me and the server.
yeah.
And like the server knowing that I hit the ground when on my screen I didn't.
Yeah, that's typically
The majority of the time it's just that.
It's typically that kind of thing, or it almost always is desync when those sorts of things happen, because sometimes it's like you die because an NPC shot you, but you didn't see them because they were desynced in somewhere else, or another player shot you to desync. I just had that in 4.1 where I was doing PvP at the Hathor site, and I shot the dude with an entire clip of a P4 ammo, almost point blank. He didn't even realize it was there, and he didn't flinch. And then he just shot me once, and I was dead. And it's like, oh,
yeah.
So there are some like bugs that can kill people. I think the falling through the planet thing doesn't actually kill people. I think you're right on that one. I think you just have to like log out, log back in. But sometimes that also doesn't work, and so you have to backspace out because you're stuck in the walls or something like that. So, but the real reason is less bugs, and I think that a lot of people, I guess this is a controversial opinion, I think a lot of people put more emphasis on bugs than exist, because you might have one Star Citizen does the Star Citizen thing where you have a bug and it leads to another bug and it leads to another bug, and you just get frustrated. And so people have this sort of bug cascade issue, get frustrated, and then assume all of their experiences are that because they have this one experience and it's a huge problem for them. The amount of time I've been stuck in the CZ walls, those sorts of things happen. So I do think that
I mean, like getting stuck in walls, no doubt it's a bug, but that's not a bug that kills you because you can log out. Like, I've seen I saw a couple of people in chat mention the Atlas, like climbing in the Atlas. I've seen that happen to people. Hasn't happened to me personally.
Yeah.
I also remember the bug where if you drank water, it would kill you.
Yeah.
That was really funny. Again, never happened to me, but I was like aware of it, and only drank water in safe places.
Yeah.
That actually reminds me, last night I was playing and one of my viewers was playing with me, and he actually got incapacitated by trying to get into his ship. And that was the first time that I've ever actually heard that in a single seat fighter. It just, the ladder incapacitated him, which ladders are a whole nother beast that needs major fixing, but that's a different conversation.
But I think, and someone is like, well, like, is this like a bug straw man, or are we talking about item recovery? The thing is that the reason why item recovery is so demanded by most players is because of bugs. People are like, I died because of bugs instead of dying legitimately. I don't want to lose this thing that I paid for, or that I got at this event, this cool thing, or even in game, I paid for. I went around and got the perfect outfit that my character looks cool in, and I enjoy it. And then 5 minutes later, I die and I can't recover my body because of a bug, or my body disappears too early, and that kind of stuff. That sort of, I get that, and I think the vast majority of people want stuff like that, rather than tier 0. But even looking at I'm looking at the post right here that was posted. Looking at the indications, there's 1,000 upvotes, but right there people reacted with both like thumbs ups and thumbs down. This is Spectrum. So the thumbs up were 860 thumbs up with 630 thumbs down. So it's still like barely positive in the range, but it's like more people like it than dislike it, but it's still controversial. So there's definitely a lot of folks out there who also don't see it as this is a good move. So, like, while overall I can see the issues with it, I also know that there's likely going to be more people who are happy with this change that are unhappy with this change. And the key thing is that CIG needs to figure out how to make this work in a way that doesn't screw over the PvP experience, especially with CIG leaning into the PvP experience with a lot of these events. So, with that being said, though, because we can talk about Tier 0 and goods and bads all day, I think it's also important that if we give CIG the benefit of the doubt, which no one should ever do, if we give CIG the benefit of the doubt and say this is a short term or this is a step along the way of Tier 1 and Tier 2, let's look at Tier 1 and then Tier 2 on their own. What are the goods and the bads? So overall, Dar, what are your thoughts on Tier 1? What do you like? Just general vibes up for the Tier 1, and I'll post this again in our chat so you can see what I'm looking at.
I mean, I'm much more positive on Tier 1. One thing I really like is being able to save shipping and interior layouts with decorations and everything. I mean, that's something I think is just overall just a positive. Like, I'd rather have that than Tier 0. I would love to. I spend a lot of time in my Starlancer, and as we talked about earlier, I have a lot of random things I could put in the Starlancer, but it's never worth the effort given the amount of times I have to claim it. So, being able to save ship layouts, that's awesome. I can put the little smiley flower pots in it and, stock it up with drinks and weapons, whatever. Like, that's great. I think that's a great change.
Okay.
Otherwise, the whole bricked item thing, it's better. I still don't like it. I still want to be able to loot a player that I killed. But, I guess you still can. At least, the scenario of needing to steal someone's gun because you're out of ammo in your gun, you can still do that until they claim it, plus an indeterminate amount of time that they probably haven't decided on yet either. But it's definitely like better than Tier 0, but yeah, it's, I don't know. I'm not like super jazzed about it either.
KG, your thoughts on Tier 1?
I think Tier 1 is a step in a better direction than Tier 0. The one thing I don't like what Dar said, is the bricked thing with items becoming bricked by a dead man switch. Like, that just makes, I don't know, it makes the game feel like you kind of have to jump through hoops if you're being a PvPer and looting other people's gear, at least when that ties into Tier 2, which obviously we'll talk about. But yeah, the only thing I don't like about it is the whole bricked thing. Like, that whole process is stupid to me. Everything else is fine with it.
Yeah, I'm generally of the same mind about Tier 1. I found that, first off, one of my viewers, when I was reading this, said, "Oh, I hate it when I can't utilize my leather jacket. You bricked my leather jacket with a dead man switch. I can't use my leather jacket." Like, yeah, it's a stupid idea because there are things that aren't necessarily bricked. Like, how can you brick a piece of armor?
Or a piece of clothing.
Yeah.
Those dye packs they put in clothes at stores?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's just a dye pack, and you don't want to get red ink all over your undersuit. So you're not going to wear the.
So I actually had a better idea, which I think would be an interesting solution to the problem, which is they explode. A dead man switch where it just, like, instead of explosion, it maybe explosion or like it dissolves. Let CIG do what CIG loves to do, which is like put pretty particle effects and stuff like that. Because I could also think that would be a very funny situation where you looted someone's like unique suit and you're showing it off to somebody, but like, look at this, look what I stole from somebody, and someone hits the dead man switch and the whole thing just melts off of your body. So now you're just naked. I think funny moments like that would make it a little bit better. The idea of it being bricked, as long as there was some sort of active process where the bricking has to be done, like a player has to register it as stolen in order for it to brick, and there's a way of countering that until then, you know, I think that's a little thing. I'd like the idea because I think it adds more risk. You die, you're still going to have to go repurchase or re-get your gear. Yes, it'll be easier to get it, but you take the walk of shame. You wake up naked again in a wherever you were, and then you have to go pick it up instead of just being able to like have a NERSA that you can just stick your imprint on and then come back no matter what. As long as that NERSA isn't exploded, you can just come back no matter what with all of your guns and armor, so you don't have to worry about it. Now it's you wake up, you still have to go find something. So there's still some solution. It kind of brings us back to what we have now while still allowing for players to get their stuff back. So I understand why people say like just skip tier 0 and go to tier 1, because that gives all the people the people that they want, which is their gear back because they got it, the sweet stuff, while still maintaining what we have right now. The one thing I am worried about is player crafted stuff, because if tier 1 is the direction, tier 1 and tier 2 are the direction. Well, we'll get over to the positives and negatives. I'll start with you, KG, on the overall positives. What are the good parts specifically about tier 1?
It's just I guess the ability to get your gear back through the freight elevators.
Okay.
And the stuff with ship interior stuff, like literally everything is fine or good, I guess. My one complaint is just the brick thing, at least based on the tier 1 stuff. I like the auto equip thing too. I wish they would add that to I don't know, maybe the suit lockers and all the ships.
That'd be a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Darn.
They already have the interaction in
those.
game, so
I think we've already kind of. I was thinking about saying tier positives and negatives, but I will. We can just we've kind of already gone over all of them. The one thing I will say about this specifically is, if you are respawning with your gear every time, how is this going to help players who produce items? You know, how is this going to create a player economy if all you have to do is make one set of armor and then you never have to worry about it because you can always purchase it back? You know,
what would be kind of cool is this is kind of like an idea that they could do with tier 1 to kind of, I guess it would be like a way of boosting the economy a little bit, but it would also like if they could create a mission for other players to go retrieve gear that people have lost, and then they deliver it to a certain kiosk or something like that, and then it returns it to that player that put like maybe the insurance item on it or whatever. Like create a whole mission loop for it. I'm sure people would do that. I would do it.
Yeah,
it'd be kind of cool.
I also think the simplest solution to the problem is just if it's an item created by a player, you can't register it to return when you purchase it. You'll just get your money back. So like if you get an insurance
or
for
that,
it,
yeah.
So you just get money for the durability of what the item was, and then you have to go back to the player who made it in the first place and buy that version of that armor or that gun again. Because it allows for players to go, oh, well, I can't insure player created items, but I can get money back for it. I can't, what do they call it? The warranty player created items, but I can go get money for it and then go purchase it again. There are solutions around it, but I do think that it's got there's some situations that CIG is going to have to deal with when it comes to crafting, if they are intent on creating a player economy where players are interacting with each other and are being, people like yourselves are forced to interact with people like myself or other like the crafters in chat or the industry folks in chat, because I'm sure both you, Dar, and KG are more interested in just shooting things, not sitting there and having to figure out the best formula for creating the best hardened armor sets for something. So
I'm actually our org's logistics guy, so I would be very happy running gear up to them from you. I just also have teeth. I do enjoy combat, but I'm big. I like space trucking. I like hauling, and
Yeah, but I mean, like
all of the.
the
I won't be a crafter. I'll come to your Banu
Yeah.
or your merchant man.
and I think CIG, the way that they presented at CitizenCon was a vision, at least that I thought what I saw was a vision of everyone has to interact with each other all the time, because the people who are going to get really in the weeds with crafting and really learn how to min-max crafting are going to be the people who have to spend a lot of time and energy doing so. And so the people who just want to go knives out, just start stabbing people, sort of gameplay, they want to have that combat, they're not going to have the patience for it, so they're going to have to go to those industry nerds to get the best equipment, so they have to interact with them. And sometimes interaction can be, I will pay you for it. And sometimes the reaction is, I have a gun, you're going to give it to me. And that's what, in my mind, that's what CIG was going for, is like sort of forcing players to talk with each other, either peacefully or violently, talk with each other. So that's with that in mind, I don't see how the tier 1 item recovery really helps that direction. So that'd be my only concern. Go ahead.
I mean, I think the obvious answer to that concern is wear and tear and items breaking down. They would just potentially have to do it at such a frequency that it'll get really annoying. Think like Breath of the Wild, like your sword breaking every 5 minutes. But I mean, I guess that's a bridge we'll cross when we get to it. But I do very much hope that we get a strong player-driven economy, because I know personally those are the games that suck me in the most. The games I've played the most, Path of Exile, Eve, stuff like that, all have very intricate player economies, and I very much enjoy that. So,
yeah. Sorry, I just saw Omega saying, so Star Citizen players only communicate with each other through interpretive dance. That's how gamers interact with each other. All right, chat. The friendly dance is different in every game, but the friendly dance is a dance. Every player interacts with each other. If they don't have VoIP, they'll interact with the crouch or the jump or the wiggle back and forth. We got our own dances,
Even the little torchlight on your helmet.
Yeah, a little turn off and on kind of thing, All right, let's do tier 2, and then we'll move on to the question and answers. So, specifically, I'll start with you on this one, Dar, or KG. I think you were the last one to speak. KG, what are your thoughts on tier 2, goods and bads?
Everything is good on tier 2. I still it's going to carry into the bricked thing with the bads. My thing with just the bricked items is I feel like they're making it so that if you're looting gear from another player, they're making it so that you basically have to jump through hoops just to put a piece of armor on or just to use a weapon in the long term.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense to me. I come from playing Tarkov, where you can just go in, you kill a player, you can take his gear, and you can use it immediately. And you don't have an issue of having to pay a certain amount of money or do certain things to make it so you can use it. You could just use that gun again and go and do another raid. So I take a lot of things, at least with this stuff, from like the Tarkov standpoint, because the way they have insurance with gear is probably the best I've seen any game do that. And I think CIG can learn a lot from them.
For those because there's a lot of people who don't play Tarkov and who watch this stuff, what is that insurance system?
Tarkov's insurance system is where you can basically click on what pieces of gear that you want to insure to have in Tarkov's standpoint, it's the opportunity to get your gear back. So if somebody doesn't loot your gear, if say you die in a raid, you get it back in a certain amount of time. So depending on whatever traders you do it through, it could be like 6 hours to 24 hours and you get that gear back. If it's looted and all your gear is taken, you don't get that gear back. In Star Citizen's standpoint, I think they could do that, but with pledge gear, obviously make it so that you get that gear back no matter what. and but the player that looted it can still use your gear because they rightfully took it from you.
Yeah, I can see that.
Um,
That's because it also makes a lot of sense because sometimes the gear is just gear. Use an MMO terminology. Everyone has in MMOs has grind gear, raid gear, PvP gear. So you have the different gear sets for different spec'd out for different specific situations. If someone kills me in my grind gear because I just happen to be in the wrong place, wrong time, they're probably not going to want to take up my grind gear, which is just stuff that helps me with fighting NPCs and such. So they're probably like, garbage. No, not worth it. And, you know, I've killed plenty of players and NPCs where I didn't want to go like, oh, I'm going to take their armor. I'm just like, I don't care. I've got my armor. I'm just going to take what you have inside your armor. You know, your weapons and armor or whatever, maybe your ammo at most. So that then if it's like, oh, well, no one's looted your body in this amount of time, it just comes back to you. I like that idea a little bit more.
Yeah, having a timer on it is I mean, I think that would be the biggest thing. I would probably make the timer longer than it is in Tarkov, but you know, obviously CIG is very concerned about duping, and I'm glad that they are. Duping is a problem, but yeah, you know, if insurance is a week before you get your stuff back, then you know, that would massively cut down on duping.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't like the. I was agreeing with KG. I don't like the bricked item thing, but otherwise it's kind of like tier 1, tier 2 is better than tier 0, I guess.
Yeah. I think tier 2 is fine. I still think that it's a better idea to you have to brick the item. Like the player who has it has to brick the item in order for it to be bricked. Like you have to actively hit the button or like report it stolen or whatever, because and maybe there's some cost behind it. There needs to be some price behind bricking something. Like it can't just be lol fu, because like one of the biggest problems whenever I follow people like Cutlet who do, you know, space like piracy, is that when a player feels like they're going to get they're not going to win. They've been overwhelmed by any sort of like disabled or anything else like that, and they're about to get boarded. They'll just hit the self-destruct sequence and say, whatever, I don't care, F you. And the problem about that is that there's just no counter to that, A, and B, there's no consequences for hitting that button. And I think when they have things like engineering having it so that you have to physically overload a specific drive, so you have to like activate the device, you have to like set it properly, you have to be in the right location. So there's a way that you have to actively do it, because that adds more drama, it adds more planning instead of just hitting a button. And then that would kind of increase that cost. I think the same thing would be with brick. Like there should be some sort of cost or some sort of process that you have to go through to like registering your item as stolen or your item is lost. So it's just more of there is some consequences on their side rather than just on your side. Because like they lost, you got killed. Like being a shit ass about it shouldn't be super easy, you know?
Yeah, there should be consequences for dying. And I mean, just the whole thing is like CIG for years has been talking about death of a spaceman, and I mean the latest stuff in 4.0 or 4.1 is kind of hinting towards them moving that direction, and you know, medics and you don't want to die and you lose your clone, whatever, like, and suddenly we've got this tier 0, tier 1, tier 2 item recovery that takes consequences away from death and pushes, you know, it just is, you know, taking away so much risk that it already exists in the game now. It's like, I don't know, it seems kind of counter to what they have said they want the game to be.
I think it's removing friction. I will leave on this. This is one of the reasons why I'm kind of in the middle with all of this. I see some problems, but I also see solutions with those problems. I think what this does is remove friction from the game. And there's a lot of friction in the game that doesn't need to be there. They can still add and have plenty of risk and reward, but there's a certain amount of how much value do we as a player get from having to buy 17 copies of the same armor set, or to just like buy more ammo than the entire state of Israel, so that we can just keep, just in case we die, we can always come back and get more of it to use it on whatever we need to. Like stockpiling and stuff like that is nice. And of course, Dar, as the logistics person, I'm sure you would be like, we want those things. But there comes a point where how much is that added value to the gameplay versus just busy work that's designed, that's sort of slowing down players from enjoying the experience. So I see what they're doing.
It's a slippery slope though.
Yeah.
You know, like at what point do we just remove all the friction from the game and you log in and there's a button on the screen that says I win, and then you push it and then fireworks go off and confetti comes down and they go, great, you won.
Yeah.
Like that's what happens. You remove all the friction. You know, like
there's got to be some friction. But
yeah, this is a topic that comes up in a lot of different games. Is like people identify the annoying things that add friction and they don't like it because it slows the game down. But the pace of the gameplay is important to the game as a whole. And you know, like you speed it up too much and pretty soon we're playing Call of Duty. Yeah. You know, and I don't think anyone here is signed up to play Call of Duty in space. So, you know, that's what I was saying initially. Is like, okay, there's part of me like tier 0. Like, do I want to keep my gear? Yeah, I do. Like, I like my gear. It's cool. But like, as a person who wants to play this game for years, I can understand from a broader like perspective of game development that the friction that might be annoying is also necessary to give weight to the decisions you make in the game and make the game play the way you want it to. It's a little bit of like listening to the players here. It's like, you know, you ask a 3-year-old what they want to eat and they're always going to want ice cream. And, you know, like, should we always just every meal be ice cream? No, like we got to eat our vegetables too, you know? It's and listening to the player base in this case is like listening to a 3-year-old to meal prep for a week. You know, it's like that all they want is ice cream. Oh, I just don't want to lose stuff. I just don't like that. Like, that's not, you know, I feel like CIG should be able to say, no, we don't think this is good for the game. And it feels like they're just giving in.
Okay. I disagree, but I understand the direction which you're saying. I understand. I understand that there definitely needs to be friction. There needs to be some things in there. And I will end it by saying, I remember I was playing Kingdom Come Deliverance recently. I've been going back and playing it because Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 came out, and I've been like, I had some time. I'm like, I have never actually beat the first game, so I'll go through and actually beat it. And there was this one bandit camp where no matter what I did, no matter what strategies I used, no matter how I did it, I would just get destroyed. Just every single time, I'd just get destroyed. And I was like, I gotta beat it. I got that gamer lock-in situation where I'm just like, I gotta beat it. I can't go to bed without beating it. And it was frustrating as hell. Like, I was pissed. Like I'm not the kind of person who gets really mad at video games. I was pissed off at this video game. I was just like, I was surprised I didn't wake my wife up with it. But effectively, I eventually figured out how to do it. And it was just being a cheesy little fuck ass, but I still beat it. And I felt so much better. And like looking back on it after the fact, after I played it, I was like, it was like 30 minutes of lost time, but I learned how to cheese this section so I could use the skills that I learned on how to beat them again. And I got better at shooting arrows and learning how to dodge things. So like, was the experience freaking annoying? Yes. Did it also teach me how to play the game better? Yes. So like, I'm hoping that CIG can find that balance between, is this too annoying for players? You know, is this annoying for players? And is this a way we can teach players to get good? Because, like I said, Walk of Shame sucks. but you should have to experience that, because sometimes you just get your ass kicked. And if you get your ass kicked in a video game, you figure out, what did I do wrong? How can I improve upon it? And or you do what I did and just throw yourself head first into it constantly over and over again until you figure out, oh, the hat goes on the head, and then figure out how to beat it. So, yeah. Thank you for joining us so far, KG and Darissa. As always, for those of you who are watching this, if you did enjoy this, you can join us live at twitch.tv/theastropub and youtube.com/the Captain's Table Podcast, youtube.com/@the Captain's Table Podcast, where these goes live on Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Would love to have you come join us live. If you did enjoy this, hit that like button, subscribe for more content, hit the bell icon to be notified when these release. And I always want to hear your thoughts down below on anything we talked about today, all the tier zeros. Do you think this is the right direction, the wrong direction? Let us know in the comments down below. And if you were watching us live, stick around. We're going to be going on to our question and answer session. So you can ask anything you want from myself, Dar, KG, all of us, about tier 0 item recovery or anything else. So please stick around for that one. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.